Hello, and thanks for coming back and spending some more time with us. I want to show you right now behind me is the night garden. We are restoring that night garden, and right now they're building up the steps that lead us into the night garden. And we're going to be restoring that later in the fall to our interpretive era, which is the Douglas era, early 1900s. We've pulled all the plants and we got all these new plants to plant in there. So it's really exciting. But today, what we're going to be doing is cleaning up in the formal garden. We're getting rid of all the spring stuff that was flowering and beautiful and lovely at the time. And we're taking it down and we're allowing all the fall stuff to come up, like the asters and the sedum and the butterfly bush, rudbeckias, and then all the annuals that we planted too that will give us another round of color. So today, I am working with Kira and Rebecca in the garden. Come on. I am just doing what they call deadheading. This isn't the best rows to show it on, but the general rule is when you see a leaf of 5, there's about 6 there, but generally if there's a leaf of 5, that's where you cut, because that's where your new growth is going to come out. So you cut right above the leaf of 5. Or in this case, since the bloom's all a little crazy, I don't worry about that so much. But you do kind of want to leave it so that it looks like it hasn't been pruned. So in other words, you don't want to leave just some stakes up or some canes up. Roses, especially this one, this is called the fairy, they'll bloom more than once if you prune them, keep the deadheads off. And then if you see like little buds, first you want to leave those, like these, because those will still yet to bloom. In this bed there was some thistle and some other rogue plants growing in here that I didn't want growing in here. What I kind of want to keep this as is just this rose. These are poppies that kind of rebloomed in here. And these I'm going to leave. I took some of them out, but I'm going to leave these so that these seed pods can dry, and when they're ready to dry, then we'll scatter them throughout the garden. And I like to do it when they would naturally do it, which is when those pods would dry out. So I took some of them out, like I said, but I'm going to leave a couple of them in. And when you prune something back, generally you're telling it to grow. So come about the end of August, I kind of stop pruning things because you don't want them to have a lot of fresh growth, and then the frost sets in and kills the plant. Whereas if you kind of leave them with their dead flowers on and everything, somehow it protects them, I've found, in the winter. Like I say, gardening is, you study, but you gotta just do it, because some things are different depending on what climate you're in. What I've learned is I can prune roses up until about August, and then you just want to let them go for the rest of the year. So this is just a time-consuming little project.
Usually it's just basically here, you take the dead one and you go down to right before the new one. Because there'll be a new bud, usually just down the stem from the other one, and that's where the new flowers will come out of. So just take it between those two, between that one and the next one, because they'll just start blooming right out of those.
Now with roses, if they're getting out of the banks like here, I just go ahead and trim them back so that they stay within this framework here. When they first start blooming, I'll let them go ahead and bloom and grow, but then like this is the first time of me coming around and deadheading, and so this is the opportunity to kind of get it to push it back so that it can be mowed around, kept looking nice, not too out of control. So that's what I was trying to do with this thing too, is to try to keep it in this circle, and of course get all these weeds that are in here. And what they were doing over there, like some of the perennials, see, we got an aster growing in here, but I don't really want an aster amongst this row, so sadly I'm going to pull it out. You could replant that if we wanted to somewhere else in the garden, but I have plenty of asters. So, you know, say you went, oh no, I didn't mean to pull this out. What I would do is take it back to another place in the garden that I can maybe plant it, cut this down. If there were more roots, this doesn't have very many roots, but just sort of snip back some of the roots and then just plant this thing. And then the trick would be to make sure it gets plenty of water, which is why it's a little challenging to do this time of year when it starts getting a little warm. Although we've had regular rains, but you'd have to kind of make sure that you know where you planted new things like this, because you just got to keep them watered until they get established, like a little baby. But yeah, that's the cool thing about perennials, is you can kind of move them around. And the only time of year I really don't is when it's going to get super cold or really hot. I was trying to leave as many of the poppies in there just because I like to let them reseed in the garden. They're an annual. So you want to let those seed heads dry off. Now, if you wanted to start them inside, then you could collect the seed heads and let them dry inside, you know, inside your shop or wherever you might be starting seeds. I prefer to let them dry out naturally on the vine. I think you have better luck. I have anyway. Whereas if I cut them too prematurely, the seed pods, like those seed pods, are green. And poppies is another one that really doesn't like to be transplanted. So it's even more crucial to sort of let them go to seed out in the garden. And then once they're dried, I go around and shake them in the garden where I want them, just like, and most of the time, you know, you'll get about, I'd say at least 75% of them to come back. With poppies, you'll notice these will dry out and then these little heads will separate and there'll be a little space for the seed to fly out. Like with these, I'm trying to leave some of these blossoms, and you can pretty much tell that these blossoms are done. You know, you can just tell that they're faded and their petals will fall off. And like I say, you can cut them as high or as low as you want. And this is about as high as I want it to go. So I'm keeping it up basically at this level. Again, there's a lot of flowers on this particular plant, this particular rose. So sometimes people just like to let them die out, all of them, and then they'll go through and just head shear them, which you can do too. But it looks a little sloppier. So I like to go through and kind of be a little more careful as to where I'm pruning them. Having come back this weekend, I just noticed that these were ready to be pruned up. Plus, like I said, this rose will rebloom yet in the late summer and fall. Sometimes fall, the roses will really bloom. If you can get them, if you can deadhead them in time, here in Iowa, they'll give you a second shot of blooms for the fall. They may not bloom as prolifically as they did in the spring, but they will come back.
Kara gave me some of the seeds that they were plucking off. Yeah.
The rose campion.
Oh, that's a rose.
Well, no, it's not actually a rose. They call it a rose campion, but it's a perennial. I'm not sure where that name comes from, but it's a Lychnis is the other name I know it by. But those will rebloom, so they were out there. I had them pruning those and clean it up. Right now, it's cleanup time. It's always cleanup time. You're always cleaning up something. Trimming or weeding. Your gardener should never be saying there's really nothing to do. Because if he is, or she is, you might want a new gardener. There's always something to do. And this was just one of those things that was, oh, I got to get out there and do that. This garden is going to be redone here in the next year or two to sort of get it back to the original plan that it was. It's not that far off, but the beds need to be recut and re-measured. We've been making them wider and they're uneven. And you can really notice it when everything's kind of died back for the winter. So that's what we're going to do, is try to reshape the beds so they're more in line with the original design, and then change out some of these arborvitaes that have gotten a little big. There's some yews back there that we just changed out that have got too big. They've just gotten out of whack, so we need to bring them back into the original design idea. There'll be a grape arbor. There used to be a grape arbor that kind of went along the whole side and around the front. So we're going to try to reproduce that if there's the money and time and the will. It takes a village, basically. So thanks for joining us today, and I hope you learned something, because you can see now the difference between a weedy, messy garden and a lovely, clear, clean garden, allowing for the fall stuff will come up and you can enjoy them. And then you can collect the seeds from some of those plants that you just cut back in the other garden, and we'll show you next time what to do with those seeds. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more, hit the like button, the notification bell, and subscribe to the channel.